The North Atlantic is a place of restless spirits and unyielding cold, a vast expanse of gray water that has swallowed empires and legends alike. But today, we are not looking at the surface, we are descending. We are traveling through the water column, past the reach of the sun, past the realm of light, into a world where the pressure is enough to crush a mountain. Nearly 5,000 meters down, in a landscape of absolute darkness and eternal silence, lies the pride of a fallen navy, the battleship Bismarck. For more than 8 decades, this gargantuan steel fortress has rested on the silty slopes of an underwater volcano, a silent witness to one of the most violent chapters in human history. The hull is a cathedral of rust, draped in delicate, orange-colored rusticles that hang like weeping willow branches from the jagged edges of the armor plating. The 38-centimeter guns, once the ultimate arbiters of naval power, now point aimlessly into the black void, their muzzles choked with the sediment of ages. This is more than a wreck, it is a time capsule of 1941, a frozen moment of terror and majesty, hidden beneath miles of liquid shadow where no human eye was ever meant to see it again. As the cameras of our deep-sea explorers scan the debris field, we see the remnants of a titanic struggle. Scattered across the seabed for miles are the artifacts of a lost world, anti-aircraft guns still tracking invisible targets, personal boots of sailors half buried in the mud, and the shattered remains of the ship's bridge where Admiral Lutchen spent his final hours. The Bismarck was a masterpiece of Krupp steel and German engineering, a ship deemed unsinkable. Yet here it lies, broken and forgotten. But the silence that has reigned over this tomb for 84 years is about to be disturbed. We have come not as scavengers, but as restorers of memory. The ambition is madness, to lift 50,000 tons of steel from the abyss, to defy the physics of the deep, and to bring a ghost back to the world of the living. It is a challenge that requires every ounce of modern technology, a mission that pushes the boundaries of what is possible, and a journey that begins with a single beam of light cutting through the eternal gloom of the North Atlantic. The surface of the ocean is a chaotic contrast to the stillness below. Above the wreck site, the salvage platform Atlas stands as a technological marvel, its dynamic positioning thrusters fighting the Atlantic gales to remain perfectly stationary over a target miles beneath. On the deck, engineers in high-visibility gear move with practiced urgency, surrounded by miles of synthetic fiber cables stronger than steel but light enough to not snap under their own weight. This is the staging ground for the greatest resurrection in history. We deploy the exosuits, pressurized titanium shells that allow human beings to walk on the ocean floor as if they were on the surface. These divers are the pioneers of a new frontier, moving through the silt with the grace of astronauts. They attach the suction anchors, massive cylinders that will grip the seabed and provide the leverage needed to pry the Bismarck from its muddy cradle. Every weld, every bolt, and every sensor must be perfect. The pressure at this depth is over 500 times that of the surface. A single mistake means instant catastrophe. We are dancing with a giant, and the giant is heavy with the weight of history. The moment of the first lift is a symphony of tension. In the control room, the silence is heavy as the tension gauges climb higher and higher. The ship has been held in the grip of the seabed suction for nearly a century, and it does not want to let go. Then, a low-frequency groan vibrates through the hydrophones, a sound that has not been heard in decades. It is the sound of steel being stressed, of mud releasing its prize. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, the bow begins to rise. Clouds of golden-brown silt erupt like underwater volcanoes, obscuring the ROV cameras. Thousands of tons of water must be displaced, and thousands of tons of sediment must be washed away. This is not a fast process, it is a game of inches. Day after day, the winches hum with a constant, rhythmic vibration, pulling the Bismarck through the water column. As the ship leaves the darkness and enters the twilight zone, the color of the water changes from black to a deep, haunting indigo. The pressure begins to drop, and the world above waits with bated breath for the return of the king. Then, the breakthrough. The surface of the sea begins to churn with white foam and escaping air. Through the gray mist of a North Atlantic morning, a dark, jagged shape cuts through the waves. First the mast, then the bridge, and finally the legendary Atlantic bow, dripping with salt water and ancient mud. It is a sight that defies belief. The Bismarck, once a ghost of the deep, is now a physical reality under the open sky. As the water cascades off the hull like thunderous waterfalls, the ship's true scale becomes apparent. It towers over the support vessels, a rusted mountain of armor and history. There is a profound sense of awe among the crew. Some stand in silence, others weep. They are looking at the face of 1941, brought back into the light of the 21st century. The ship is secured onto the back of the semi-submersible transport Black Marlin, sitting high and dry for the first time since it slipped down the slipways of Hamburg. The journey home has begun, a triumphal procession across the waves it once dominated, escorted by a multinational fleet that stands in salute to a fallen adversary turned historical treasure. The return to Hamburg is a homecoming like no other. As the transport ship enters the Elbe River, the shores are lined with hundreds of thousands of people. They have come to see the impossible. The Bismarck is towed into the Blum and Voss shipyard, returning to the very dock where its keel was laid in 1936. Now, the real work begins, the total restoration. Inside the massive dry dock, the ship looks like a wounded titan. The first stage is the cleaning, a monumental task involving high-pressure steam and specialized chemicals to remove the corrosive salt and deep-sea organisms. Thousands of workers swarm over the hull, their sand blasters creating a constant roar that echoes through the city. As the rust falls away, the silver-gray Krupp steel is revealed, remarkably well preserved by the cold, oxygen-poor water of the abyss. We find shell hits from the King George V and the Rodney. We find the twisted metal where the pride of the Royal Navy struck home. And we document every scar as a sacred record of the ship's final hours. The restoration is a meticulous reconstruction of a lost world. We are not just painting a ship, we are rebuilding an era. Historians pore over original blueprints, ensuring that every rivet and every wooden plank is in its proper place. The deck, once a splintered mess of rotten wood and rusted steel, is relayed with thousands of square feet of golden yellow teak, sourced from the same regions as the original timber. The massive 38-centimeter turrets are painstakingly dismantled, their internal gears cleaned and lubricated until they move with the same fluid precision they possessed 80 years ago. Inside the bridge, the transformation is even more startling. The shattered glass is replaced, the brass instruments are polished to a mirror shine, and the wooden steering wheel is restored to its rich, dark mahogany glow. Modern technology is woven into the fabric of the old ship. Advanced fire suppression systems, structural reinforcements, and eco-friendly engines are hidden beneath the historical facade, ensuring that the Bismarck is not just a museum piece, but a living, breathing vessel. As the months turn into years, the ship begins to regain its soul. The iconic Baltic camouflage, the black and white diagonal stripes designed to confuse enemy rangefinders, is repainted with surgical accuracy. The ship's crest is reattached to the bow, its gold leaf gleaming under the shipyard floodlights. This project has become a symbol of international cooperation, with experts from Germany, Britain, and the United States working together to preserve a shared history. We are no longer looking at a weapon of war, but at a masterpiece of human capability. The Bismarck has been transformed from a symbol of destruction into a monument of reconciliation and engineering excellence. The engines are tested for the first time, a deep, rhythmic thrum that shakes the dock floor, a heartbeat returning to a body that has been cold for nearly a century. The ship is ready. The world is ready. The final launch is a day of global celebration. The dry dock is flooded, and as the water level rises, the Bismarck lifts off its blocks with a majestic lightness. It floats perfectly on its lines, a 50,000-ton miracle of buoyancy. As the gates open and the ship moves out into the harbor, it is greeted by a wall of sound ship whistles, cheering crowds, and the thunderous flyover of modern jets. The Bismarck sails into the North Sea, its bow cutting through the waves with the same sharp, clean wake it made during its sea trials in 1940. But this time, the journey is different. There are no enemies on the horizon, only a vast, open future. The ship sails into the golden light of the setting sun, its polished steel reflecting the colors of the sky. It is a bridge between the past and the future, a resurrected titan that tells a story of tragedy, discovery, and the ultimate triumph of the human spirit over the depths of the ocean. The Bismarck is no longer a ghost, it is a legend reborn, immortalized in the light of a new day, sailing forever in the memory of the world. Tip tic murang kuk chi tit via k thup fak hia yang si, kuk kao chian k non si the lane. The SSTAC Yang Ca Du and GV Ko CHCC Hang Hai Tone CSUG J G Dung Lian Kan TUCSU. The restoration of the engines was perhaps the most complex challenge of the entire project. Each of the three massive Blum and Voss brown coal-fired turbines had to be completely disassembled. The salt had penetrated deep into the bearings, and the pressure of the deep sea had deformed some of the smaller piping. Engineers used 3D metal printing to recreate parts that had long since gone out of production, merging 1930s thermal dynamics with 21st century material science. When the middle shaft finally spun for the first time, the vibration was felt throughout the entire shipyard, a low-frequency hum that signaled the ship was truly alive. On the deck, the restoration of the AR-196 float planes provided a touch of elegance to the brutalist steel of the battleship. These eyes of the fleet were restored using original parts recovered from various museum warehouses and the wreck itself. Their silver fuselages now sit proudly on the catapults, ready to be launched into a sky that is no longer filled with the smoke of flak. The teak deck, now fully cured and oiled, smells of salt and fresh wood, a scent that would have been familiar to the thousands of young men who once called this ship home. As we look at the finished vessel, we must reflect on what this means for our understanding of history. The Bismarck is not a glorification of conflict, but a tangible link to a time that is rapidly slipping from living memory. It allows us to stand where Admiral Lutjen stood, to see what the sailors saw, and to feel the immense power of an era that changed the world forever. The ship now serves as a global museum and a research station, carrying a new generation of scientists and historians across the very seas where it once fought. It is a vessel of peace, a resurrected giant that stands as a reminder of the cost of war and the beauty of restoration. The King of the Ocean has truly returned, not to rule by force, but to inspire by its presence, sailing into an eternal horizon where the shadows of the abyss can never reach it again.